I'm here to talk to you about why we reposition our residents at Crossroads House, especially for those that need assistance with repositioning, as well as when they're semi-comatose and comatose. If they're able to reposition themselves independently, we just need to remind them that they need to be repositioned on their side just to prevent any bed sores. But there are 7 reasons why we reposition, and we really need to know this because families will be mentioning to you, saying, you know, my loved one looks comfortable, I really don't want them repositioned. And this is where you have to have the education as to why we reposition, so you can explain to the families. The families really don't know what comfort care is all about. We do. So again, our role is a lot of education. We need to be the advocate for the resident. And sometimes that means, you know, working with the family to make everything work then. Compromise is a wonderful idea. I've had some families where they say, oh, please don't reposition them. And I'll compromise and say, okay, let's give it another hour, but I really then need to reposition your loved one. And that compromise seems to work pretty good then too. So 7 reasons why. First of all, as we all know, we need to prevent or alleviate any pain for the bed sores. Many of the residents have told me that the bed sore pain is worse than their cancer pain, and that's got to be pretty bad. So a lot of times they have red spots or maybe open areas when they come, so we need to make sure that we are not going to have that bed sore get any worse. And of course, it's prone to get worse because they're not taking in the nutrition for wound healing. They're not taking the fluids. They're not repositioning. Everything, the circulation is impaired. You know, the heart's slowing down. The breathing is slowing down then too. So there's a lot of different factors that will push the idea of getting a bed sore. So we need to prevent as well as alleviate any pain. Number 2, touch. And you know, touch is so important, especially during the end-of-life care. And when we reposition every resident, even if they're not semi-comatose or comatose, when we reposition, it's customary, it's written in my Bible that we reposition with a back rub and a butt rub. Touch, again, is very important. And why we do butt rub? Well, most people get decubitus ulcers or bed sores on their tuba, not on their back, okay? So again, touch is very important. And this back rub helps increase the circulation, plus it's comfort. And especially when they're dying, you know, they hold their stress on their shoulders. And it's amazing, it's even when they're comatose, when we give that back rub and that shoulder rub and that neck rub, they're like, oh, their breathing just slows right down, and it just is a real good relaxing comfort measure. And again, number 3, we're checking for incontinence, especially if they don't have a Foley. But even if they do have a Foley, sometimes some Foleys leak, so we have to make sure that that Foley is not leaking, that they aren't sitting in urine, and especially towards the end, their stools are very loose and they'll be oozing stool. Who wants to sit in them urine and feces when they're dying? Again, we're checking, number 4, checking the dressings. A lot of times when they do have an open bed sore, there's that glorified bandage that we call Optifoam, and it has all the medicine underneath, and you put the Optifoam on the open sore, and it's to stay on for 5 days. But sometimes that Optifoam is very close to the rectum, so if they had a bowel movement or oozing stool, we need to get that dirty thing off, okay? But also we're just checking the patency for the Optifoam. And again, number 5 is really important. We're assessing for pain. And the family will say, well, geez, she looks real comfortable. She doesn't look like she's in pain. The way we check for pain is when the resident is laying on their back, we bend their knee towards their chest, and you watch for nonverbal cues. When we did that with Joanne, she screamed. She practically jumped out of bed. And that proved to the family, yeah, she is in a lot of pain. And especially, we need to reposition. So if they have pain, we need to medicate prior to the repositioning, especially if they do have the pain. Number 6 is very important. It's to prevent or alleviate the death rattle. As the disease progresses and they're getting close to death, they do not have the strength to clear their throat. And our bodies are still making saliva, still making mucus. So if they're on their back, it just settles there and they don't have enough strength to cough it up. So that's why when they start gurgling, even the beginning start of gurgling, get them on their side. Give a good vigorous back rub and butt rub. Keep them on their side. And sometimes you may need to put the bed up and down, sort of like, and I'll do that sometimes 2 or 3 times. The head of the bed up, the head of the bed down. Head of bed up, head of bed down. And that will help move the secretions, because with you repositioning, you're going laterally, but then it moves the secretions with the head of the bed going up and down. When they have the rattle, I never put them on their back. So then when it's time to reposition our resident, and that's according to the plan of care, most, just remember, rule of thumb, you reposition every shift, which could be every 4 hours. Night shift, reposition twice during the shift. If the plan of care that the nurse writes for that day says reposition every 2 hours, then you follow the nurse's plan of care. So we reposition from the side and then to the other side. And again, remember, we are doing that back rub and butt rub every time. And that's amazing how that really alleviates the death rattle. Our last resort is the atropine or the hycosamine pills, but that has so many side effects where it increases their heart rate, and it's just a terrible tasting medication, because Jeff tried it and said it was foreign. So here, just by the repositioning, we can alleviate that. And of course, the 7th reason is comfort. If you were stuck in one position for 4 or 5 hours and you couldn't move yourself, that's very painful. You know, you need to turn over, get in the right nook and cranny, and get comfortable then too. So if you have any questions regarding the repositioning, ask Emily, ask myself, ask any of the nurses, and repositioning is a comfort measure, and that's what we're all about. Thanks.